Boom. Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick Arnwine. I'm here with Paul Nickerson. We're both members of the Floss Carmelite, Jacksonville, Florida, and this is another installment of our videos on Horarium, how we live our life as Carmelites in the world. So, with that said, Paul. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a secular Carmelite?
Sure. Thanks, Patrick. I guess I had always been, well, not always, but had been a Catholic for 10 or 15 years. Um, and when I lapsed at some point. And then when I came back to the church, eventually started meditating, exploring a sort of more sort of contemplative type of prayer through Lectio Divina and that sort of stuff. And then um, as I went deeper into, I guess, turning my life over to God and surrendering, um, to God, I felt that I needed to go deeper and exploring some sort of spiritual vocation. And so somehow the Carmelites spoke to me, and I had dedicated myself to Mary, consecrated myself to Mary, um, and put my vocation in her hands. And so, yeah, just I knew somebody who went to the third order group, and I talked to her about it. She said, "Oh, I go to Jacksonville, and so that's about an hour and a half away." And so I started exploring that, started going, and everything just kind of clicked. And so I kept going and have loved it the whole time that I've been there.
Well, good, good. And you also, as a hobby, you like to study philosophy?
I do sometimes. Philosophy, theology. I use a lot of AI for that purpose. Chatting with the chatbots to learn, and I'll get into kind of debates, to hone and refine my position and my understanding.
What do you mean? You would read and then you would ask questions of?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's another reason why I love our group, being around smart guys like you. Hopefully, some of that can rub off on me. Uh, like I said, we're going to talk about how we live our life as secular Carmelite in the world. Um, so, how do you order your day around your horarium, around your prayer life?
The first thing I do in the morning, I meditate. And I do 30 minutes. I call it coffee with the Lord. Literally get up and I go make some coffee. I just either get back in bed or I sit on my couch or a chair or wherever, and um, and I meditate. And I'll either, so the most important thing for me is just entering into, or rather, um, recollecting myself and placing myself in the immediate presence of God. And I guess that means like recognizing that God is here with me, but also turning my attention to him. And I love the Lord's Prayer. I think that might be my favorite prayer. So I'll say that, um, and I'll be attentive of the one to whom I'm speaking,
Mm,
who I guess is both all around, but also within me. Um, and that's the most important thing, I think, is to commune with God through recognizing His presence, and being attentive to whom it is that I'm speaking. But I'll also do Lectio Divina. I mean, I'll get some piece of spiritual reading. Uh, I sponsored somebody in OCIA this past go around, and as a gift, he gave me this cool book. It's a book of the saints, and each
oh,
day has a different saint, and I'll read a paragraph, or two paragraphs about the saint's life, and then I'll reflect on that and I'll talk to God about that. So a lot of times, I'll have some sort of written material that I'll read and reflect on and sit with God on it. But the most important thing, like I said, is remaining in God's presence for 30 minutes. Anyway, so then I will. Oh, and you know what I do before that? When I get into bed, when I get out of bed, I get on my knees and I give the day to God. So anyway, then I'll do my meditation. And then at some point during the morning, I'll go to work, and then I'll take a break, uh, and do my morning prayer. I like to go on a walk while I do it. I do it on my phone. I know the purists say you got to use a book, but I use my phone. But and then let's see. I try and stay connected with God again throughout the day. Kind of like Brother Lawrence says, just remain in the presence of God. And I try and have good conversations with people I work with, right, where I'm fully present and I'm not keeping any secrets. I'm not, um, you know, like what am I trying to say? When I speak with people, I try and speak my mind and I try and be honest, right? So I'm not like living inside of my head or anything. I'm literally like I'm remaining in God's presence. I'm being fully present with other people. And I always ask God, all right, what's the next right thing to do? And then I'll wait for an answer. And usually I'll get like an intuitive thought or just my mind will go like, oh, you should be working and not scrolling on X. And I'll just try and be obedient to God's promptings that way. And then a lot of times I'll go to mass. I usually go to mass two or three times during the week, daily mass. And then again, at some point in the evening, I'm doing my evening prayer, um, either on a walk or if I'm feeling kind of tired, I'll just do it while I'm sitting. Um, I don't like to do it when I'm laying down. I usually feel like I need to be respectful, so I sit up. And then, yeah, when I'm going to sleep, I'll try and do a little examination of conscience and I usually fall asleep while praying the rosary. That's my little devotion to Mary. And again, before falling asleep, I'm on my knees, thanking God and thanking Mary and Joseph. And then it's just similar, during the weekends. It's a little easier during the week, I guess, with work. It's already built in a
Mm.
schedule, so the prayer schedule is a similar kind of way. But I mean, again, like my life is built on a skeleton, the skeleton being prayer and spirituality. So it's just how it is.
Yeah, I kind of on the weekends it's kind of hard. It's harder for me to stay with my schedule because of praying, simply because you like you say when during the work week you have a schedule. You get up and the work is part of it and
Yeah.
everything. Um, so did you ever explore other religious orders before Carmelite or after you joined the Secular Carmelites?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. I mean, so Carmel was the first, like I said, I had kind of an interior movement where I felt drawn to Carmel and I didn't really know much about it. So, um, I guess I knew they did the prayer thing.
Hmm.
But at some point you think, oh, is this really the right one? I mean, um, don't want to join Carmel and have buyer's remorse, and feel like maybe I missed out on a different one. But I looked in the Dominicans, I looked into I don't know, the Franciscan, like just you think, okay, is this really my charism? Is it really all about prayer and meditation and loving God? Or is study and preaching or teaching or doing work with the poor? And it always just kept coming back to always kept coming back to prayer.
I had a similar experience. Um, so so how do you manage your um, spiritual life as it relates to your work? In other words, I know I heard you say how you kind of incorporate some of your prayers while you're working, taking breaks and things. Um, you know, one of the Eastern Church monks or followers will say, used to say, well, said that, we're called to be in peace, at peace, but that peace moves uh, throughout the day. And I know for me, I start off wanting to be, in prayer, uh, doing everything with love, doing every little bit like Saint Therese says, with love. But as soon as I get in the car and someone cuts me off, or you know, I kind of lose that. And I guess I'm asking, how do you deal with those disturbances in your peace?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to tell you that I do it well all the time, but I definitely don't. Um, work of all the disturbances in life, I guess work would be the one that would create the most distraction, I guess, for me. I can tend to put more effort or maybe more mental attention to work than it deserves. I love my job. I love my work. I try and do it with purpose.
Mhm.
I say, okay, why am I here? We're here to serve this particular, group of folks, and also treat my coworkers well. So it's not purely about making money or drive and ambition. I try and serve whenever I park to go into work. I say, God, thank you for bringing me here on time. Or if I'm not on time, thank you for bringing me here at a reasonable time. God, help me to be of service to others, to love and to serve and that sort of stuff. And I go in and if somebody is frustrating me, I try to pray for them. God bless this person, um, grant them eternal life and peace, uh, and that sort of stuff. Um, I try and encourage people. I try and serve my coworkers, uh, people immediately around me. I try and share God's love with them. Um, and that's it. I mean, I guess, I want to be the guy that loves people around me, and then they can see that.
Do you feel like the people that are around you are somehow, and this is in all honesty and not being uh, prideful or anything, but do you feel that people around you, because of your prayer life and your spiritual life, are changing for the better?
Yeah, actually, I do think so. And it's not always due to my, well, oh gosh, how do I answer this? So my strength comes from God through
Hmm.
prayer and through service and that sort of stuff, the sacraments, right? And so I try and do God's will. And so like I manage people. So here's a couple examples. I manage people. And I try and bring out the best in my staff, coaching them. I utilize the Catholic notion of virtue. And I guess that's not the only ethical framework that uses virtue ethics, but I like the Catholic virtue idea, right, of building good habits. And so the habits that I try and build, not only with myself but also staff, are humility, honesty, transparency, teamwork, um, collaboration, and this sort of stuff, right? And so I try and model that. Um, and I tell other managers when I'm coaching them about how to be a good manager. It's about inner humility and discipline and serving people, right? Not making all about me. I do that. I have some influence over the ability to create organizational structures and processes that hopefully bring out the best in people. That can be challenging. Um, not everybody's Catholic, not everybody has God, and so I guess it's about trying to understand human nature and orient things to bring out the best in people and to build virtue, because that's helpful to them even if they don't necessarily know God, it still enables them to live a good life. And that's what I try and do. I try and help people to live good lives and to all, have us work together for our common end.
How do you feel along those lines? How do you feel uh, the way you live your spiritual life affects your personal relationships with family and friends?
It's about showing up and sharing what God has given me, I guess. Um, and I can do things like I can listen, when they speak. I can share what's going on with me. I just I enjoy people, I guess, is the main thing. And I want them to I want people to know that I enjoy them. Um, Now I can also one of my vices is kind of vainglory and wanting to be the center of attention, and I like joking around and that sort of stuff. Um, but I like asking people questions about themselves so they can talk and I can get to know them, and then they feel like, this person's interested in me, and that helps validate them. Um, and then with family, yeah, just trying to show up and keep up good relations with them. But again, I mean, it's really all God. I mean, like in this society, it's so easy to have relations that just wither and fade. But with God, um, as the vine and we're the branches and all that stuff, it's sort of like, well, okay, I'll stay connected with God, and then I can pray for these people, and then God will inspire me, like, oh, you should give so and so a call. Um, or don't forget to buy your brother a birthday present, and that sort of stuff, I guess.
Well, Zoom is about to kick us off, so do you have any parting words of wisdom or things that you wanted to touch on or something you wanted to touch on before we parted company?
I guess the biggest thing that I've had to learn is that like God, I can give God everything. It's not like I'm going to give God this little part of my life or this little sliver, or I'm going to trust him with that piece. It's like God wants it all. Love the Lord your God with your whole soul and heart and strength and mind. Um, and so it's not like, okay, I'm going to just do my religious practices. Literally everything in life, God, God, God is watching over, and can be a father and a boss and a guide and a friend. But like, don't hold anything back. Like, give it all to God and trust it with Him, and it just goes well. Like, just goes better when God's in charge than when I'm in charge. Because when I try and direct things, I tend to bungle and fumble it, and it doesn't turn out all that good. But if I'm following God's inspiration, things go a lot better.
Well, thanks for that. And you brought up a very good point because there's actually something that comes before that. You love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength. Then what comes before that is that He first loved us, right? So
Mm,
we are we
yeah,
are we are we are duty bound to love Him and to
good
strive for
point.
Him. So,
Yeah, definitely.
um, but with that, Paul, I greatly appreciate it. And I guess I'll see you May 2nd.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye, Paul. I appreciate you.
All right, bye, Patrick.